Well, good morning. Got up sitting outside having coffee with my wife and thought I'd just go get on here and knock out this one for today. So, in my last video, I said something about going to work in Ashdown, Arkansas. I like to look around. I keep up with what's going on around me. Habit, I guess. But anyway, uh, I got sent to Nashville, Arkansas, and I was supposed to be there for a couple of months, uh, just buying crack cocaine and methamphetamine. So I drove a blue Chevy step side, probably I don't know, 89, 90, something like that. Not too fancy, but not too old, because I knew I was moving into the projects down there. So when I first pulled in down there, I pulled in and all the people were looking at me like, what's this white guy doing in our projects? Come to find out, I was the only white guy. Several white women, but just I was the only man. So I pulled in, they started giving me harassments about everything, and I thought, oh hell, this is not going to be a good thing, because a lot of my targets were supposed to be living in the projects there where I was staying. And one of the first people I met was real nice. He told me, he's like, man, you ain't gonna be able to make it here. They are real cagey about white guys. They always think they're police officers. And I said, well, hell, I ain't a police officer. I said, how can I get everybody's mind at ease? He said, well, come offering gifts. And I said, what the hell you mean by that? He said, you'll figure it out. So I said, all right. And I got to noticing everybody sitting around drinking beer, kinds of beer. So I left that day like I was going to work, and I come back that evening. And in the back of my truck, I had probably 6, 7 cases of beer. And so when I pulled up, I hollered at the guy that I met the day before, and he come down, and then he turned around and whistled, because I told him, I said, I brought beer for everybody, so I could get talking to him. So he whistled and told a bunch of them to come down. There's free beer. And I had more people around my truck at that time, and they started chit-chatting with me. What the hell am I doing there? Why am I the only white guy in this complex, and all that stuff? And I told them, I said, look, I just got divorced. Ain't got no money. I went to work at the paper mill there in Ashdown, and this was the only place I could get in because I don't have any money, and the government has these for people that are in my condition. So then, free beer, a little sad story, and I was in like Flint. So I lived in the projects probably 2.5, 3 months. And like I said, my primary job was to buy methamphetamine and rock cocaine. So I got hooked up with a white girl that was married to a black gentleman, and she and I got to talking real on a regular basis. And she started talking to me. I told her, I said, look, I need to do something to make some extra money. I thought I could probably buy some stuff around here and then sell it to the people I'm working with at the paper plant. If you've ever been around a paper plant, it stinks. Anyway, I got to keep this short and narrow. And one of the things I did was told her that I had one guy that I met at the paper plant, and he wanted some crack cocaine. And I told him, I said, I might be able to get you a couple of $20 rocks or whatever. And he's like, I'd take $100 worth of $20 rocks. So I went back, and the guy that I talked to initially, he was down there close to my apartment, and got out, and he's like, man, you look like you're in a hurry. I said, well, I got a chance to make a couple of $100 if I can get some product. And then he's like, well, what kind of product? I said, I need about $100 worth of 20 rocks. So we sat there and had a couple beers. Never did go into my apartment, he didn't. And sat there and had a couple beers on the back of my truck, standing there talking. And he said, well, I might be able to help you out. And, he said, I got asked though, and it's by law, you have to tell me if it's true or not. And I knew what was coming. He's like, you have to tell me if you're a police officer if I ask you you are. I said, well, ask away. And he's like, so are you a police officer? I said, well, hell no, I ain't no police officer. Which you don't, that's one of them things they see on TV and think it's real. So he's like, all right, hang on. He went up, found somebody, brought him out to the balcony, looked down at me, and waved at me. I waved back, showed the beer, motioned with my hand, come on down. But he didn't come down. The guy I met come back down. He's like, he's real cagey. He won't sell to anybody outside. So if you want to go, I'll go up there with you, and we'll go into his apartment. He likes to be in control of everything, and he's got something above his doors that can pick up mic transmitters and all that stuff. So if a cop comes in, as soon as he walks in the door, it lights up above the door, and he knows you're a cop. And I said, I ain't got nothing to worry about. I just need to buy some rock to make some money. And so I went up there, went in his apartment. The light didn't go off. He was very polite, very open, actually. He said that he knew I'd been talking to this married lady, to one of his friends. And he's like, she said she was cool. You didn't even try to come on to her or ask her why she was there or anything. I said, well, it's really not my business. I said, I'm not nosy. So he's like, well, I need to see the money. So I pulled out some 10s and 20s and all that stuff and paid him $100. He gave me 4 rocks, like $20 worth of rocks, about the size of my thumbnail. So that was my first buy in the projects and getting known in the projects. And like I said, I lived there for about 3 months, and that's all I done. Disappeared during the day for a couple hours, and I come back and got to know the one guy that come up and talked to me initially, and he didn't mess with drugs or anything. He was just a straight guy in a bad situation where he was living, and he maintained really well. So he would take me around town eventually and introduce me to other people, or if we just saw some guys standing in a parking lot or a vacant house spot, and they would have a fire built of an evening, we'd pull up, and they knew who he was. They accepted me for who I was with him. So there's more to this story. Nothing really exciting happened other than I worked there about 3 months, and I bought methamphetamine, some cocaine, and rock cocaine. And that's where I learned how you actually make rock cocaine. So rock cocaine is just a solid form of cocaine. But cocaine you sniff, rock you gotta smoke. There's more story there, but like I said, I got to kind of keep this short and sweet. But I lived there 2.5 months, and I bought a lot of rock cocaine there. Some methamphetamine, some coke. Got to know some pretty decent people. Uh, and when I left, I think there was about 33 people that got arrested about a month or so after I left for selling cocaine and narcotics. And the crazy thing of it is, when you see somebody that does that stuff 2 or 3 times a day, and methamphetamine and cocaine, and they ain't got 2 nickels to rub together. They're addicted to it. They gotta have it. They don't have any life whatsoever. You know, they're living on food stamps and welfare and all that, and they don't try to do themselves any better. The people that I dealt with didn't. I'm not saying everybody's that way, but the people I dealt with was. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this one up here. Oh, one short story. We was riding around one night. I was with another undercover officer, showing him around town. We was driving the back streets and stuff, and we come across 4 or 5 black guys standing in an abandoned house lot, I guess, and they had a fire built there. And we stopped. I hollered. I didn't know them. I hollered at them, and one of them walked over here and to the truck door and was looking at me and looking at my buddy and looking in my truck around to see if we were cops, basically. And I told him, I said, I'm looking for a couple of $20 rocks, maybe $50 rocks. And he told me, get the hell out of here, this, that, and the other. And he walked off. And as soon as he got about halfway between us and the fire, he turned around and he said, I told you to get the hell out of here. And he pulled out a pistol and shot it in the air in the middle of town. And I said, all right. And I took off and I circled the block and I come back around. And another narcotics officer told me one time, he said, you need to buy you some of those 10 packs, 20 packs of firecrackers. Now I know why. I circled that block and I thought, all right, I'm gonna clear y'all out. I lit them firecrackers and I hollered at them. And I said, you better run. And I threw them firecrackers out and they started popping. They scattered around, ran off and all that. Just kind of some fun time just to have something to do, you know. They pulled a gun, I throwed firecrackers. So anyway, that's all for today. I will be back maybe later today or tomorrow. And I don't know what I'll talk about then, but I know I'll find something to think about today. So until then, thanks for watching. Thumbs up.